business, and I've got one too. You can't mind your business. What's the matter with you?
Welcome back to another episode of the Brand Shorthand Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Vandergrift, and with me today is our dazzling differentiator, Lorraine Kessler. Lorraine, welcome back.
Yes, thanks.
We
Thank
had
you.
we had our guests on last week from our media department, and then we took a week off. So it's been a few weeks since we've had you on.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's in the middle of spring break, so
That's right.
not that that means anything to me,
Right.
but it does mean my grandkids are available and they're hot to trot in terms of me doing stuff with them.
Awesome. Good. Well, Lorraine, before we get into today's topic, which is going to be Southwest Airlines, one of our favorites, we're going to update some folks on some brand news. Apple, I think you saw the link we sent you for this, recently released a 5-minute long ad, and actually a little longer than that, to promote their new Apple AirPods 4. And the ad features Pedro Pascal. And it starts gray and gloomy and icy. And we see the actor navigating his way through a recent heartbreak. Walking down the street of the dull-looking city block, Pedro catches a glimpse of another version of himself. Dun, dun, dun. One where he's happy, dancing his way through vibrant, brightly colored streets as he experiences the magic of listening to the active noise cancellation, AirPods 4. So this very cinematic ad utilizes some pretty compelling storytelling, and it's designed, of course, to captivate viewers and showcase the product's features, all of that. So, Lorraine, as a positionist, and what you've seen of this ad, it's getting a lot of really good positive feedback. Do you want to share your thoughts on the ad and maybe how the use of long form video is being done a lot? We saw that recently with Volvo. Remember, they did a long form ad.
Right.
So tell us how that can work and benefit a brand.
Well, first, thank you for sending me the link. I think this spot is called Someday. And I really do love Pedro. So right away, the spot had me. It was 5 minutes.
I won't tell John.
No. One can dream.
Yeah.
But it was 5 minutes, I think 36 seconds, which 36 seconds is longer than a 30-second usual commercial.
Yeah.
I think it's important for maybe the viewers to separate long-form storytelling exemplified in this commercial, which is really a dramatization, a very brand-centric dramatization of a single benefit, the noise canceling and what it can do to your attitude and what have you. From what we know in our business as long-form copy, or the long copy format, that was advocated so wonderfully by the father of advertising, David Ogilvy, years ago. And I think while both are aimed at creating desire for a product or service, they're very similar in that way. I mean, that's the goal, right? But they're quite different in another. In that this approach was very much an indirect branding approach. You're not told a lot about this device. You're not told anything about its features, how much it costs, how to put it in your ear, how many buds come with. You're not told any of that, right? You're simply given a drama around feeling. And so that's how you engage an audience, as we call indirectly, with a brand message, because branding is ultimately about emotions and feelings. So it's very branded. And it's supposed to be like enjoyment plus awareness, because I got you, I'm enjoying it, now I'm aware of this product. And hopefully the next time I'm in the market, I'm going to be looking at Apple's, earpods or AirPods. Whereas if you go back to the history of advertising, Ogilvy's famed ads, which were long copy, were very rational in their approach. Lots of facts, lots of persuasion, right? All to get you to really take a much more direct, and that's a key word, direct approach. So now you're armed with a persuasive argument. And I would have to say that in a way, we almost lost the idea, other than direct mail and direct whatever it means, of strong persuasion as a key. I'm not even sure that young people coming into the market understand the keys or the system of how you build a persuasive argument in advertising. I don't know if you think any differently, but
No, I completely agree. And I think AI is taking that away from them.
yeah,
If you look at any AI copy, what I've said number one above everything is it sounds like a book report,
right,
and it has no persuasive nature to it at all. Like, one of my very first questions I ask it, because we're in this industry and we have to test things out, I said, why would you hire an advertising agency? And it was literally a book report that you would have probably found on a lot of websites, but it didn't have the compelling persuasive argument
yeah,
that someone might use if they were in an advertising agency like us, when
right,
we're selling to clients, to say, you need us for these various reasons. It didn't
right,
say that. It was like bullet point, bullet point, bullet point,
very flat.
without, yeah, very book reportish. That's the only way I can really phrase it. It was reporting on something rather than persuading me with a compelling argument.
Now,
Like, you lack this and you need this. You lack this, you need this. Problem, solution.
yeah, and I mean, both what we're talking about, this commercial being a dramatization, creative dramatization of a brand appeal versus a direct long form copy, they both start with emotion. I mean, I remember once we were working with the flour factory, and
Mhm.
they only sold wholesale, right? Do you remember that? And
Yep.
I remember the great Herschel Gordon Lewis consulted with us. What a great man. His book, The Art of Copywriting, is fantastic. Um, and he said he came back with never buy retail again. I mean, that's emotion. But
Yep.
then he built the case from there, right? And the case always goes back to, why would you be a fool to pay retail, right?
Yep.
So there's a beautiful kind of way or system of writing that I think it's an art, and it might be a lost art to some degree. But we're more in this brand centric world, and that's it. I guess part of my problem is back to the commercial in question. Um, the creative team, when they're given a position, and Apple certainly has a position, right? And
Mhm.
its position is based on aesthetics and beauty and the emotion that people have about using its devices, and how I self identify with Apple. Like, it says something about me more than it even does about the products.
Mhm.
And certainly it does that. Um, so, and we also know, so the point of the creative is they have to take that idea, which might be aesthetics or beauty, and they have to make it really emotional. And I think the spot does a great job dramatizing that, because, as we've said many, many times, branding's boring business. When you have the positioning, let's be specific. The strategic idea of how you're going to differentiate is boring. We're going
Mhm.
to stand for safety. We're going to stand for
Yep.
reliability. We sell more than anybody worldwide. That's a great position, but it doesn't have any juice behind it until it's dramatized in a way that really connects. And that's where the creative team serves the most vital role. I've said this before, that's where the magic is made. Not in
Mhm.
coming up with the strategy, but in how to communicate it in a way that really engages the audience. But you also can't bore people to death, you know, um, in how you execute. So um, I think the one downside to this particular spot for me is, you seem to know that this guy broke up or had a breakup. I didn't
Mhm.
know that. I'm just watching the spot cold. I didn't know what was going on with these people rumbling around in the gloomy doom. That supposedly had some meaning. I think he was like knocking them out of their way. I don't know. I can't remember why. And you have to actually watch an explanatory video of the production company, the creative agency, making the spot to understand the whole storyline. Well, for me, I don't have that much time. People aren't paying attention anyway. I begged out of the spot. If I didn't have to watch the whole thing, even with, uh, our dear friend, I would have, I would have been out of this long because I already know what AirPods do. It's like, okay, cancels noise. All right, I don't quite get this. It's really beautiful. It's really cinematic. It's all this, but I'm moving on. So give me the meat. Where's the beef, kind of thing. So I don't know if other people have that relationship to it, but I thought it was a little overindulgent, if I could use that word. Or is that a word, or is that a hyphenated word? Two words.
It sounds good. It makes sense. We know what you mean.
Overindulgent, right? And to me, it was more style over substance. So it'd be interesting to see what it does in terms of sales, or what the real measure is that they want from this.
Well, it's interesting. I'm seeing more and more where these videos are released, and the whole goal is to get dialogue going about them. And it's the bait, right? We call clickbait.
Yeah.
Okay. The content itself is the bait around which the conversation happens.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, it does. But it also tells me that we're not thinking about important things in life if we have time. if we, and this is probably goes to a bigger story about why people are protesting the way they are, and they need that. They're trying to fill some hole in their life. I don't know. But if you are really that involved in this, God bless the advertisers, but I don't know. I think there's other things that are being ignored in your life.
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that what social media has done for us is everyone gets an opinion, whether they're involved in the process, whether they know all the factors, whatever it may be. There's a lot of people that want to give their opinion about something regardless of how little they know about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is simply, here you go. Here's some content about a brand. I'm going to seed my brand in. It's almost like a video that has product placement in it.
You're
rather
right.
than an actual ad, and go ahead and comment on it.
Yeah.
That's all we want you to do. We don't care if it's good or bad, because everyone's going to take sides. That's what we do these days. And it's going to get it spin. And guess what? Apple, 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 Apple.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about Apple.
Right.
So, and sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. I forget. Now, I remember the Volvo ad, but I'm forget. Oh, it was spurned by the Jaguar ad. Remember the Jaguar ad?
Yeah.
That was so horrendous.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, here's the content. Who cares if 90% of the people hate it? And then Volvo comes out and goes, here's a 3.5 minute spot. Comment, comment, comment. And now we have Apple doing it. So I think the format is something we have to keep our eye on to see, given the prevalence of video, the consumption of video, and we are in an entertainment culture now. We've talked about the phases of an empire, right?
Yeah.
And you get to one of the final ones, which is, do you remember?
Pleasure. Is it pleasure?
Right? There's another word for it. I'm not going to remember it right now. Shoot. It's a word for pleasure.
Okay.
But that's what they call it, as far as the things that keep us occupied near, some of the final phases of an empire. And I'm not doom and glooming the United States.
No,
but I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Huxley did a better job than Orwell talking about the real, kind of blight of civilization. It's pleasure that keeps us from doing the important things and the important issues, and from morality. And it might be Epicurean. Maybe that was
that's the word. Thank you. Epicurean. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And Will Durant pointed that out in the History of the World, that we become Epicurean versus more Spartan, right? That's kind of what happens. Yeah.
So interesting. Well, that's a lot of chat about an ad that is a long ad, and
Well, I'd be real interested to see how if other people watch this, if they get bored. I got kind of bored. I mean, there's
I even did with the Volvo ad. I liked the Volvo ad, and I thought it did good storytelling, and the cinematography of it was great. But I was even ready to beg out. But that might be our generation. We have to think
that's what
about.
I'd be interested
Yeah,
in, because I think you make a really excellent point about it's more about starting the conversation. I mean, as much as you can say about the Jaguar ad and the negative reaction that it had, right?
yeah,
For its whatever it was, um, we all know there's a new Jaguar and a new look and a new logo.
yep.
So did did they accomplish what they wanted? Yeah. Um, and so, this is one thing is that what we do for a living in advertising is always about the culture.
Yeah.
And culture eats strategy for breakfast. So you've got to be on tempo and in time and understand where people have changed, how they consume things, and what they think about
Well, and there's a formula to it too. When you're a big brand, you have the resources to go do these things and try them
it. Yeah.
and stick them out there and see what happens. If you're a smaller brand, you're not going to go do some high level production like Apple did and see if it works, right? You
Yeah.
don't have that luxury.
That's right.
So I think that's also something that our listeners will have to keep in mind, because most
Yeah.
of our listeners come from smaller companies, small and medium size enterprises, and they have to limit what resources they have. So from a utilitarian or practical side of things, is this the next thing we would tell you to do? Absolutely
No.
not. But
No.
it's certainly keep it in mind as something that's, on the table as a possibility.
Right.
Good. Well, we want to get over to Southwest.
Hmm.
Back in season 1, do you remember that many years ago, Lorraine? I can't remember
Hey,
yesterday's.
I remember when Southwest was a newbie, because I lived in Dallas and they flew out of Love Field.
Uh-huh.
And I had a good friend who worked for Southwest. He loved wearing the uniform.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if that pride's there anymore, because I think
Hmm.
they've basically gotten rid of every last ounce of their position, which was the low price position.
Hmm.
And we've written and talked about it extensively, which is operationally, they did everything they needed to do, just similar to Walmart, where everything was about keeping that price down so the competition couldn't come in and squeeze them out of that. And they've, I mean, if you compare their prices, they're not lower. And
Yeah.
now the big announcement is they got rid of their free check bags, so now they have bag fees on top of it. And um, they were known for the bags fly free. That was their whole policy, and they even had the phrase trademark. But starting May 28th, folks, you can't fly on Southwest Airlines anymore with bags fly free. So they've decided to uproot one of their most recognizable policies. And I think that's the last bastion of what might have set them apart from competitors. Although I think you and I agree they've been losing that for quite some time. So, what are your thoughts on this, Lorraine?
Well, they've joined the herd,
Yeah.
and they're headed toward the destination called commoditization. I mean, if you could commoditize a brand, they've done it. They are now matching the big air carriers who they went flanked,
Uh-huh.
right, and went opposite of many years ago when they started, because they stayed narrow to grow big, and then
Mhm.
they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now they're joining the herd. So I really, you mourn the loss of such a great poster child for positioning and marketing warfare and all that. Will this help them? I don't know. They at one time flew more passengers than any airline flying,
Mm.
and they did it their way, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And many people don't know that the original founder of this, Herb Kelleher, and this story's been told many times, um, his vision was to become a substitute for the Greyhound bus. And I think listeners might be, or viewers might be a little surprised by that. He thought that he could offer a more convenient way to get from point to point at a price slightly higher, but comparable to taking a Greyhound bus, and certainly in less hours. And I think that was the brilliance because we don't even think about Greyhound bus. I don't know who takes buses now, and they're in the most dangerous places at the meet. But
It's
it
like
was a brilliant,
Amtrak.
yeah. But I think that perspective was great because he saw himself as kind of an Airbus to begin. You know, we have that British term, and that they could offer more affordable air travel from the large carriers if they did something very different than what the carriers were doing. And what the carriers were doing was this hub and spoke method. And so Herb came in and said, look, let's fly point to point, you know, and we're going to eliminate that hub, that downtime that keeps planes on the ground. That costs money because they're just going to fly from one point to another point to another point. So short distances, that was great. And as we've said many times, I want people to know that while Southwest offered this low price, that was a byproduct or a benefit, a consumer benefit that comes from low cost operations. You have to create a way. You can't just cut your price, right? That's like cutting your nose off or cutting your own throat. You have, and it's short lived because you can only be low to the degree that your competitors can't match you. So you have to do things structurally to make it sustainable. And if you don't do things structurally different, then good luck. It's going to be a short run. So, you know, the other thing that Kelleher did is he did things different to make this difference stick, right? They only had one airplane, the 737. As I said, they didn't have any less downtime, not hub and spoke, point to point. So planes are in the air all the time. They were the only one, because they only had one aircraft, they only had to have one training system, one type of simulator, one type of repair and products and tires that fit the 737. They didn't have to worry about all different planes. So they specialized. They really they narrowed the focus where they had superiority. And that's a key principle of marketing warfare. As a flanker, is you want to narrow the playing field where you have advantage. And they specialized. They didn't try to do it all. And now, after all that, and they've gotten bigger, that strategy was a strategy that I think anyone would applaud as playing to win, right?
Yep.
We put everything to our advantage and to the disadvantage of the air carriers. But now they're just playing to play.
Yeah.
Because they're side by side, they're equal to, and why should I fly Southwest? Well, are they going where I want to go when I want to go there? And what's the price differential? We don't know. So I don't know why you choose them other than your personal agenda or needs.
Well, it's interesting as we were looking at this topic. We saw just recently in September of 24. So what is that? 6 months ago, right? Southwest unveiled its Southwest Even Better transformational plan. And highlighted in the plan was how bags would continue to fly free. Let me read this statement for you. Bags continue to fly free. Extensive research reinforces Southwest's bags fly free policy remains the most important feature by far in setting Southwest apart from other airlines. Based on Southwest research, the company believes that any change in their current policy that provides every customer 2 free checked bags would drive down demand and far outweigh any revenue gains created by imposing and collecting bag fees.
So are they going back to?
So here we are in March, and we see Southwest has had a change of heart. So, you know, I'm all about adaptivity, right? If something in the market tells me a data point that says change, I think it's okay. But rumor on the street has it that when they had that software meltdown, not only did it cost them $1 gazillion, but it cost them almost $1 billion to get new software installed. And the Wall Street, you know, types are pressuring Southwest to get their revenues up. So I think what we're seeing here is some response to that issue.
To Wall Street.
Yeah. So
Well,
Lorraine,
you-
explain the rules going on here and what the challenge is.
Well, this is the problem when investors have such a big stick to rule your company, and you listen to it because short-term revenues may hurt long-term profits and margin, and certainly customer satisfaction. So, the purpose of a business is to produce a customer and
Yeah.
to innovate. Those are the two purposes of business, according to Peter Drucker. So, if you are now taking away something that really differentiated you from the competition in a way that's meaningful in the mind of the customer. Now you have nothing different. What they're counting on is that you're going to have enough revenue, these investors, that you're going to make up for some really bad decisions that happened past with really old and outdated software. My question about bags fly free, I thought it was maybe old bags like me. Do old bags fly free? Because I'm all over that. But we like to travel at this age. We're retired.
Yep.
But no, so I think that this is the pressure Wall Street has, and it's unfortunate because I think they're on the road, as I said, to undifferentiation, which is the road to commoditization.
So we've always said that brand positioning, is more than a marketing philosophy. It's a business philosophy or a business strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about the importance, just to remind our listeners, about aligning business strategy to brand positioning.
Sure. I mean, they're really the yin and yang, right? I mean, it's hard to say which comes first, the brand strategy or or your competencies, capabilities, and your view of what you do well, and then how do you make that competitive? They have to work together. If you take Southwest, for example, the business strategy was short trip, slightly more expensive than bus, convenient travel from point to point, filling a hole in the airline industry. It was virgin territory. Nobody was doing this. So it was a niche that was big enough for a startup to make hay with and literally grow into such an airline that it flew more passenger miles than any other airline. So, I think that, certainly to have this strategy, your systems, and this is really good in Playing to Win from A.G. Lafley and Roger Martin's book, if anybody wants to read that book, is your systems and your management systems have to support that idea. If you find a hole, if you find a situation like that, whatever it is, you have to then make sure you have the resources, financial and human, you have the talent, you have the right measurement, and that you do things differently to optimize that idea. So, yeah, in a way, it's hard for me to tell what comes first, the business strategy or the brand strategy. They kind of, as I said, are yin and yang. So in so many ways, certainly I would say that the business strategy informs the brand strategy, what you communicate about your difference. But you have to be thinking about what makes us different from the beginning when you're planning the business strategy. There are no virgin markets. So you can't really go in and say, we have this great idea. We can do this really well. We're really passionate about this beyond making money, and everything aligns internally but if you fail to look at the external, who's in this space? Who could be a competitor? And how do we differentiate? Then you've missed a really critical piece. And that's what brand positioning is. And that's the beginning of brand. Positioning is upstream from brand.
Well, now I'm going to add a layer of complexity to you. And this is out of left field. Okay. Because I just heard about it on Sunday. So we're just talking, yesterday. And here's the interesting thing. Elon Musk, everybody's got Elon Musk in their crosshairs today, good or bad.
Right.
But on X, Grok AI, that's his AI tool.
Okay.
Okay. On there, someone asked the question, is Elon Musk a distributor of misinformation? And Grok came back and said yes. Okay. And Elon Musk did not censor that. And he says we all have to come to grips with the fact that the arbiter of truth, small t, is going to be AI based on the majority opinion that it finds online. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So in the context of that, what I thought was really interesting is someone made the comment, oh, great. Now we have to market to the AI to help them form the opinion that we want them to hold.
Oh my gosh.
So what did I do? I went to Perplexity AI, which is a search engine.
Yeah.
Okay, it's one of the platforms. And I said, which airline typically has the cheapest flights?
Southwest.
And it did not come back Southwest.
Oh, did not.
Because if you know, they go and they have all the airline costs. Like you can do it in Google too. You can just say like, CLE, Cleveland to MCO, which is Orlando, and it'll return all the rates for a bunch of different airlines. Well, Perplexity returned Allegiant Air as number one, Spirit Airlines as number two,
Okay. And that makes sense.
Breeze Airlines is number three, and Frontier Airlines is number four. Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting, and I would have guessed secondly Spirit, but that is interesting. And in part, it's because we said Southwest vacated the space a long time ago, so they haven't been talking about price for a while. And these other airlines have, but there is a cost. I mean, I think which one of them that has the really bad Frontiers has a terrible reputation.
They all three except Breeze has a net negative promoter score.
Yeah.
Breeze Airlines is the only one with a net positive score.
Yeah, that's scary. That's scary. Now, where does Breeze fly? Where are they?
Well, out of our Akron Canton Airport, there's 10 locations.
Okay.
And I would say 4 or 5 of them are down to Florida, but they go to Raleigh-Durham, they go to Hilton Head, I think, Myrtle Beach. They might go to New Orleans. They go to Nashville. I mean, there's 10 or 11. We're now considered a spoke for Breeze Airlines.
Okay.
Or a hub.
Yeah. All kind of short hub sun destinations for the snowbirds of Ohio.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So pretty smooth.
Isn't that interesting? And then if you look at some comments on social media that Lindsay, our producer, looked up, this is in regard to Southwest Airlines. Okay.
Yeah.
I am a senior and have never, all caps, flown another airline. I guess I won't be flying Southwest any longer. It is a big mistake, all caps, charging for baggage and assigning seats. I also canceled my Southwest credit card. I used to tell all of my friends that there was no better airline. Not anymore. Another one said the open seating and checked bags were the reason I used to exclusively fly you. Now you are just another airline, not a compliment.
Yep.
And then last one I'll read, nice, but now Southwest is just another airline. And that seems to be frequent, right? Just another airline is the worst thing you can have in branding. Yep. I was a dedicated traveler with Southwest for 20 plus years. Now I will shop around for prices. Nothing special here anymore.
Right.
So what do you think? What's the end of all this, Lorraine?
I think nothing special anymore says it all. Right? I mean, why do you exist?
Yeah.
That reason is gone, taking it away. You're just another part of the herd, as we started out, and you've done it to yourself. Success can be lethal, and that's what happened to Southwest.
Well, and trolling is a big thing now, where you jump on someone else's bad news.
Yeah.
So Frontier wasted no time, and they are doing a free bag day, which I think it's May 28th or 26th when this all ends. And if you go to their website, on the front website, you're greeted with a beautiful message. Frontier Airlines is ready to be your new love. Low fares, free bags, and more. Breaking up with your old airline? We're here for you. Your new love and love comes
Yep.
from the Southwest thing.
And it comes
Your
from
new
love too.
love
Yeah.
includes free carry-on, free check bag with promo code, free seat selection, and free flight changes.
Yeah.
So, Lorraine, is that a good move?
It's a good move. It could be very short term, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a promotion. If they were to really camp out on this, that would be great. But we don't know if they're going to sustain it. We'll see. But hey, they're being opportunistic. They're gonna get some trial, and maybe they'll have some real customer switching. The problem, I think, is that Frontier, if I'm not wrong, has one of the worst customer satisfaction indexes in the market. I mean, they're the bottom of U.S. Airlines. And the next, I think they have twice the complaints at like Spirit. So,
Yeah.
They're going to have to do some other things to sustain those new customers, or they're going to have to constantly be promoting this particular gig to keep those numbers up. But it's, hey, if I were marketing for them, I'd do this, but I wouldn't do this and not try and fix some of the deeper problems they have with customer satisfaction.
Yeah. Good. Well, this is a good place to end today's discussion. Thank you to Lorraine for joining us, and for our listeners for joining us again this week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, have an amazing day.
For Monday.
Ain't nobody's business but my own. You say you are